Ordered that the city solicitor work with the PIPS director to investigate alleged encroachment on city property at High Rock. Councilor O'Malley.
But before we turn this over to Councilor O'Malley, what I'd like you to do is, if you would read all four papers, because I think they all are tied together, and I'd like everyone to hear the breadth of this. We're going to, I have something to say before we do that. I guess I'd like her to read all of those.
Ordered that the city conduct a survey of High Rock in order to identify possible encroachment and to adequately defend public property and assets. Ordered that the controller provide receipts, invoices, payment requests, and/or reimbursement requests related to the work done at High Rock, with a particular focus on the new chain link fence at the property, and ordered that the city petition the legislature to designate High Rock a protected conservation area.
As these matters relate to the use of city funds to erect a fence on city property and the construction of a retaining wall on, two of these relate to the construction of a retaining wall on city property, I'm going to rule docket items 449-16 and 450 out of order based on the following facts as they exist. As respects 449-16, the city solicitor has determined that the use of city funds to improve city property and/or protect the city from claims arising from damage to abutters from city property is an appropriate expenditure. As respects 450-16, while the state legislature can designate parkland, the city is the entity empowered to designate land for conservation purposes. In 2015, the City Council authorized the city solicitor to prepare and the mayor to sign deeds designating the parcel in question as conservation land. Those deeds are actually in the process of being filed as we speak. Barring any vote to the contrary, as president, I'm going to rule that items 447-16 and 448 be considered together as they flow from the same circumstances, and I'm going to present the framework for discussion. The first thing that everyone needs to know is that the prior landowner granted the abutter permission to construct a retaining wall on the property. 2, in 2011, the city acquired the property as is and as found. 3, the city solicitor has confirmed that public land cannot be acquired through adverse possession. Bearing those facts in mind, the remaining 2 issues are open for discussion.
Can you repeat which ones are out of order?
449 and 450.
Challenge the will of the chair. I move to challenge the will of the chair.
Okay.
This is not how government's supposed to function, people.
Let me begin by saying that this is a new setup. The first few council meetings that we had here, Councilor Murphy was the first to have used this very fancy getup we have here of how to go to each microphone. So I have no idea. So I hope that you all will bear with me as I try to conduct this discussion going on. So the question is, should the ruling of the chair stand? As the judgment of the council president, and so we will call the roll.
Yeah, I would like to introduce why I challenge the ruling. I'm on.
So 11? She just turned you off. Councilor O'Malley, no, that's Councilor Kennan.
No, I'm on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. No, this is my
I think
number.
the computer says something different.
Thank you, Acting President Anderson. I appreciate you calling on me.
I just want to make sure.
First and foremost, I want to.
Point of order.
What is your point of order,
My
Councilor?
point of order is it should be strictly based upon the motion motion, the ruling that the chair made, and why, under law and under ordinance, he believes that she was incorrect. Not about the issue at hand, but why, under law and ordinance, she was incorrect. So this should not delve into the actual issue that he made. Thank
We
you.
agree with that.
Interesting. So the reasoning you're saying that 44916 and 45016 are not valid is because I just don't understand why we can't speak about these things.
Sure, Councilor, we'll go to Councilor Anderson's.
I know.
That's how you do that.
It is definitely
Well, this
not.
is high tech here.
Yeah, it's definitely not as easy as they make it sound when you first sit down, although I'm getting the hang of it just in time to leave. So, anyway, as respects 449, Councilor O'Malley, we have all received information from the city solicitor stating that, this expenditure was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. To me, bringing it to the full council to discuss at this point is mute. I mean, it was perfectly...
We don't know if there's an expenditure. We're still trying to figure that out. That's the whole point of this. It's an alleged expenditure.
There was an expenditure, obviously, because there was a fence that was put up.
And you've seen invoices of this expenditure.
There are no invoices to be found on...
Or even a record of payment. It doesn't have to be an invoice.
Let me just stop the both of you and say that the chair has ruled, you have challenged. This isn't a debate period at this point. I think we just call the roll on whether we support or overturn the vote of the ruling of the chair. Anyone in disagreement with that? Then the clerk will call the roll.
Counselor?
Yes or no?
Push the top. Push the top. We need to push the
So we're gonna do a roll call on whether or not your vote is to support the ruling of the chair, which is to strike those two items as
Just a point of information, a yes vote supports the ruling of the chair, and a no vote does not.
that's correct. A yes vote supports the ruling of the chair. All clear on that? A yes vote supports the ruling of the chair, a no vote does not. Oh.
And again, they're ruling that we cannot get invoices from our
Well,
controller.
look, we're not going to have a discussion about that. We're going to deal with the question of the ruling of the chair. So looks like we're all, I think we're going to be
People at home want to hear.
microphones on, and we're going to be able to hear. 10 on, close enough. Okay, well, we'll go with that. Clerk, call the roll.
Counselor Condon?
Yes.
Crowe?
Yes.
D'Angelo?
Yes.
Di Maria?
Yes.
Kennan?
Yes.
Matheson?
Yes.
O'Malley?
No.
Sika?
Yes.
Spatafora?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes. So the ruling of the chair has been upheld.
There you go.
Now you can have it back.
Like I said, it's not as easy as it looks.
Well, I didn't get any instructions.
No, I know. Yes, I sent it myself, so. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, so now, the remaining two items are open for discussion. But as I said,
Those are possible. We'll take them one by one.
And all the microphones are on.
yes. Okay. I just wanted to keep that this up. Okay. I think I accidentally, if people were queued, I accidentally shut you off, so queue up again, please. The two of them, pardon me? We are on both. I rule that items 447 and 448 be considered together as they flow from the same circumstances.
Ordered that the city solicitor work with the PIPS director to investigate an alleged encroachment on city property at High Rock, and ordered that the city conduct a survey of High Rock in order to identify possible encroachment and to adequately defend public property and assets.
Thank you very much, Karen. City Solicitor Anderson. Very unusual today, huh? This is usually not how government functions, so you can tell something's going on. First and foremost, I prepared a whole statement because there's a lot here. This is not something that I take lightly. This council shouldn't take it lightly. The city shouldn't take it lightly. Anyone who pays taxes in this community shouldn't take it lightly. First and foremost, I want to give the background information for folks who are unfamiliar with the public property located at High Rock, which you can see here, and I've distributed diagrams to the council. And I'd also like to explain what some of the reasons why I put this on the docket tonight. As a taxpayer and a resident of Malden, I'm concerned that the city is not adequately protecting public land and assets. I'm also concerned with how the city uses its funds, especially in light of tight budgets that we've seen year to year. We have a hard time paying for our roads. We have a hard time educating our children, paying our firefighters, police officers. So how we use our funds is really important. I think each and every taxpayer in the city can agree that these items are of importance regardless of which ward you're from. Now, as a counselor, I have a fiduciary responsibility to uphold the law and adequately defend public funds, assets, and property. A few weeks ago, it was brought to the city's attention that there may be a possible encroachment upon city land located at High Rock. The encroachment we are speaking about, the alleged encroachment.
Point of order. Yes, Councilor Kennedy. This is out of control.
That has been disposed of already?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Yes, it has.
most certainly has.
The city
We have
solicitor,
City
the
solicitor
city solicitor
ruled and
has
the
confirmed.
city council,
Alleged encroachment.
the city council said that
That's
we're all
what it
set.
says.
The city, well,
The
just for
alleged encroachment we are speaking about tonight is a
Councilor
recently installed
O'Malley.
chain link fence which appears left in a red line.
Thank you.
I'm introducing my paper.
I created a framework. You're not just going to take this and run with it because you want publicity, okay? The framework for this is, you're taking things totally out of context. And yes, and you're not listening to legal advice that has been given to you by our city solicitor. There is no encroachment. The city solicitor has confirmed that public lands cannot be acquired through adverse possession. This family has not encroached on public property.
I'm not saying that. It's an alleged encroachment. I did not make the accusation. I'm addressing a situation that all these things.
So you want to go out through the entire city and survey the entire city for every single parcel that the city owns to see if there's encroachment?
Specific parcel that you can see right here. And they don't want to talk about it. How come they don't want to talk about it?
Because there's nothing to talk about, Councilor O'Malley. You're making something to talk about.
See through this.
I'm sure they
We'll
can
try to
see
find
you,
something.
that's for sure. Now, if you'd like to stay to the discussion,
I will.
Point of-
This is the
point of
discussion.
excuse me.
This is the
point of
discussion.
order.
No,
Excuse me, Councilor O'Malley, when you want to make a point of order, you get to make it. Councilor Henry has a point of order to
But
make.
I understand exactly the point that is being discussed. Gotcha.
The point that is to be discussed, yes, which is, I'm just trying to find it, I think this form. Councilor, excuse me, I
Whether or
will
not
read
the
it
city
again.
solicitor should work with the PIPS director to investigate an alleged encroachment, and whether or not the city should conduct a survey of High Rock to identify an encroachment and to defend public property and assets.
That's another two. The first issue is not that the
we're taking it as one. I wanted to take it as two. I agree with you,
City
Councilor.
solicitor worked with the PIPS director to investigate alleged encroachment on city property.
I did say to take them, that we would look
I would
at
love to
them
talk about it
together.
separately.
Is that not the same question as we disposed of before, that there is no encroachment?
don't really know what I'm talking about yet, because I haven't had a chance to explain it. So how would you know the encroachment I'm speaking of?
Counselor, let's not be curious. You've been sneaking around in Ward 6 when you should be in Ward 4.
Like a weasel.
Yes, that's true.
So may I finish? Thank you. For those who are unaware, the City of Malden purchased High Rock with taxpayer funds for over $2 million several years ago. We went out to bond for this property. We took on a significant amount of debt to acquire it. And to learn that a portion of this land has been fenced off, I've been told in this meeting, by the city to the benefit of one abutter is very concerning. Councilor DiMaria and I raised the alleged encroachment to fellow members of the council and to officers of the city, simply seeking information to clarify who put the fence up and if city funds were used to build the fence in the middle of the woods. Going back to how we spend our funds. After numerous attempts at finding answers through the Ward 6 councilor and others inside City Hall, we were left with only further questions. Tonight, my only goals are as follows. 1, to confirm who installed the fence on city property. 2, to confirm if city funds were used to put up the fence. And 3, to finally protect High Rock as conservation land, which, contrary to what the president is saying, requires an act of the legislature. Right now, High Rock is not adequately protected from future development and alleged encroachment. The city can undo all of the protections to this piece of land that they have done with one vote of this council and the signing of the mayor. So tonight, I'd like to set the record straight. Through the chair to Councilor Kinnan, do you know who put up the fence? And if so, who? And 2, were city funds used to install this fence in the middle of the woods? Please note that I'm not yielding the floor, and I'm just giving you the opportunity to respond to those 2 specific questions.
Councilor D'Angelo is actually next.
Well, I still have the floor.
Oh,
It's clear that this council does not want to talk about this. I would plead to the residents and taxpayers of the city. Ask yourself why. Why is there a fence in the middle of the woods? And why would the city spend money on that? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if it makes any sense to you, but I'm disappointed in the city.
Councilor Kinnan.
Yes, and thank you, Madam President. And I will gladly answer that question as best I can, although I am not a surveyor. But the city put up paid for that fence. Just like through Ward funds, just like it put up the fence in Trafton Park for the dog park, as you all recall. Just like it put up a fence, which I had put up at 108 Lebanon Street, because we had neighbors using it, arguing about city-owned property, a small piece of city-owned property that bisected 2 neighbors, actually 3. And one neighbor was using it, and the other neighbor was complaining and throwing trash there. And in order to solve a problem, I had a fence erected on that piece of property as well. As many of you probably have had a fence erected in Trafton Park. I would challenge anybody. This happened a number of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, that the fence was installed. And I would challenge anybody here to tell me who the contractors were for any of those things, because I have no idea. And the city controller has told Councilor O'Malley, or is it Councilor at Large O'Malley, that he has had all his books audited each and every year, which he is required to do. And he only saves the receipts for 1 year, which he is actually he only needs to save the receipts for 1 year, which he is required to do after the audit. And he has saved the receipts actually for 3 years. But in the move, and this fence actually went up before that, when the land was not conservation land, he has told Councilor O'Malley or Councilor at Large O'Malley, I'm still not quite sure what he's doing over in Ward 6, that indeed he doesn't know where those things are and doesn't have to keep them that long. It's the law. They provided him the law. But whatever answer he gets, he's not satisfied. Because really, as those on the council all know, this has got nothing to do with a small piece of property in Ward 6, but has everything to do with a personal vendetta from Councilor O'Malley toward Ward 6. I have been on this council for 10 years almost. In no time has another ward councilor come and stalked the backyards of people. Now, if we want to go down this path, and I am quite upset, as you can tell. If we want to go down this path of having surveys done, and whereas this city has hundreds, literally hundreds of properties across this city that it owns, and neighbors all over the place, whereas it will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to have each individual property surveyed in this number, whereas to do it on just one property that this counselor to the right of me has been stalking for God knows what reason, would be discriminatory and abusive to the people of Ward 6. Whereas this counselor talks about $2 million, or 1.85 to be exact, invested in Ward 6 to save 8 acres of undeveloped land, the largest such tract saved in this city in 100 years, as if it were a waste of money, is ridiculous. Just do the math. Whereas if he wants to talk about such a thing, he probably ought to walk up in his own ward at Waits Mountain, where we spent nearly $2 million, and where it is questionable whether or not we've ever done a survey up there to make sure that people's property lines aren't exactly where they should be. I'm not suggesting we do that, because there's been no harm. There is nothing but a fence and perhaps a retaining wall all over the city, in many cities. There are not structures there. He has other property in his ward, Cordy-Moore Lee, near his home. Is he sure that those properties aren't over the edge where their fences are? I don't think he knows that, and I don't think anybody on this council knows that, because Cordy-Moore Lee hasn't had a survey probably in over 100 years. And we can go ward by ward, but I don't mean to disrespect the rest of the council this way, but this nonsense ought to be disposed. Thank you.
Councilor D'Angelo, did you still want to speak?
Motion to deny.
Defeat. Motion to defeat.
Motion to defeat.
Second.
We can still have discussion, but we do have a motion.
I move the motion.
Okay.
He doesn't have a floor. He doesn't have a floor.
You have the floor.
He says his mic on. He has the floor.
He seconded it. You can second.
Move the question on his side.
Yeah, I made a motion to defeat.
I
think somebody seconded. Let's move the question.
And we have to move the question.
That was up to the floor. Actually, he directly talked about me, so I'd like to respond to that. He directly spoke to me, so I do care to respond to that. He said accusations about me.
No.
Yeah, he said I was stalking property. I would like to respond to that. I have every right to do that. He said I was stalking
I'm going
the
to
low
move
shop.
the question, and then I'll give you the floor. Will Cullen moved the question, and I'm try to put everybody on for a moment.
So a yes vote.
So
A
we
yes
yes
vote
vote
moves the
would
question.
end debate and move to a vote. Councilor Anderson,
I'm sorry. Would you explain what the,
a yes vote would end debate and move to a vote on the motion to defeat.
yes,
A no vote would extend debate.
yes,
Councilor Anderson,
yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
D'Angelo,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Kinnon,
Yes.
Matheson,
Yes.
O'Malley,
No.
Sika,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
I still get to respond, correct?
We're not done yet, one second.
The motion is to defeat the two remaining papers.
Okay. And now those, would you read those paper numbers, please?
Yeah, so it's paper number
Yes, for defeat.
447, ordered that the city solicitor work with the director of permits inspection and planning to determine if there's been an encroachment on property at High Rock. And paper 448, that the city conduct a survey of High Rock in order to determine whether or not there's been an encroachment.
Okay, so everyone understands the yes vote defeats the papers, both papers.
Correct.
And then I get to respond after?
Yes, you do, Councilor O'Malley.
Councilor Anderson,
Yes,
Crowe,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
D'Angelo,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Kinnon,
Yes.
Matheson,
Yes.
O'Malley,
No.
Sika,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes, papers are defeated. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Directly responding to the counselor. The whole city, every taxpayer bought that property. And the differences between the parks that you mentioned that have been around for hundreds of years is that we just spent $2 million on it. $2 million of taxpayer money. And after the city buys it, a fence goes up. I find that very strange. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, and I do apologize from the councilor from Ward 6 if I'm being too direct here, but I might be a little bit skeptical of what's happening here with this property, given your history with other public properties. Councilor Kinnon, I'm speaking now as a resident, as a taxpayer, and as a lot of other people I've heard regarding this. You were formerly the fire commissioner, and you were involved in the sale of the Maplewood Fire Station to an organization that you were a chair of.
Okay, this is personal, I'm sorry. You're not going there, Councilor O'Malley. No, this is getting too personal, and it has nothing to do with the subject matter at hand. Moving on to the next